Welcome to World Information HD, your go-to channel for deep dives into the rarest, most jaw-dropping collectibles around the globe. Today, we're uncovering the top 12 most valuable Lincoln pennies, rarities that have fetched millions of dollars at auction. From wartime minting mistakes to ultra-low mintage gems, these tiny copper coins tell monumental stories. In the vast world of American coin collecting, there are certain treasures that quietly sit in people's pockets or coin jars for decades without anyone realizing their true worth. Sometimes they appear worn, dull, and seemingly ordinary, but beneath that modest exterior lies history, rarity, and for the lucky few, a small fortune. Today, we are diving deep into one such hidden gem, the United States of America 1968 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, you might think, it's just a penny from the late 60s. How could it be worth more than a single cent? But that's the beauty of numismatics, the study and collection of coins. Value doesn't come from face value, it comes from history, scarcity, condition, and in some cases, fascinating minting quirks. And the 1968 D Lincoln cent is a coin with more to it than meets the eye. Let's begin by going back to 1968, a year that was anything but quiet in American history. The country was in the midst of social change, music was being revolutionized by artists like the Beatles and Jimi Hendrix, and the space race was in full swing. While the world's eyes were on cultural revolutions and moon missions, the U.S. Mint in Denver was producing millions of Lincoln pennies, pennies that, for most people, were just a way to buy candy or bubble gum. But not all those pennies were created equal. Some had exceptional qualities, some bore minute differences, and some survived the decades in pristine condition, untouched, uncirculated, and gleaming just as they did the day they left the mint. And those are the coins that make collectors' hearts race today. Now, to truly understand the allure of the 1968 D Lincoln cent, we need to talk about its design and composition. Like many pennies of the time, it was struck in a bronze alloy consisting of 95% copper and 5% tin and zinc. This composition gives the coin its distinct reddish-brown tone when fresh from the mint, although over time, exposure to air and handling often turns them darker brown. The obverse, or front, of the coin features the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln, a design introduced in 1909 to honor the centennial of his birth. In 1968, Lincoln's portrait was still crafted by Victor David Brenner, whose initials, VDB, can be found on the coin, though, interestingly, those initials have their own history of controversy dating back to 1909 when they were first removed and later restored. On the reverse, we find the striking image of the Lincoln Memorial, a design introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. Above the memorial, the words, United States of America, arc proudly, with E pluribus unum, just beneath, and 1 cent, centered boldly. For collectors, the reverse design is more than just a patriotic symbol, it's a piece of mid-century American artistry frozen in metal. Now, the D Mint mark located just below the date tells us that this particular coin was struck at the Denver Mint. The Denver facility produced hundreds of millions of these pennies in 1968, so at first, one might assume they are far from rare. But here's where the story gets interesting. Sheer production numbers don't always determine value. Condition, grade, and air varieties can turn an otherwise common coin into something worth thousands. Let's talk about grading. In the coin collecting world, grading is a meticulous process of evaluating a coin's condition using the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1, barely identifiable, to 70, perfect, flawless. For the 1968 D Lincoln cent, coins that have been preserved in high mint state, MS grades, especially MS 67 or higher, are incredibly scarce. While lower grade examples may only fetch a small premium, coins at the top of the scale are where values truly explode. Why? Simply put, striking perfection combined with the ravages of time makes these coins exceptionally rare today. Over the decades, most pennies have been spent, handled, scraped against other coins, or stored in humid environments that caused oxidation. A flawless coin from 1968, kept in untouched condition for over half a century, is a remarkable find. But condition isn't the only factor. Some 1968 Lincoln cents are valuable because they have minting errors, unique quirks that occurred during production. These include double dies, where the design elements are struck twice slightly out of alignment, creating a shadow-like doubling effect, off-center strikes, clipped planchets, and die cracks. Collectors are fascinated by these mint mistakes because they're like fingerprints. No two are exactly alike. One of the most sought-after varieties for the 1968 is the double die obverse, where you might see doubling in the date, or lettering such as Liberty, or In God We Trust. If you've ever spotted one of these, you know the doubling can be dramatic enough to see with the naked eye, though a magnifying glass often reveals the details more clearly. Imagine this. You open an old coin jar at your grandparents' house. Among the handful of pennies, you notice a 1968 that looks unusually crisp. You hold it under a light, tilt it slightly, and suddenly see a doubling in the date, something that sets your heart racing. In that moment, you might be holding a coin worth far more than its humble denomination. The fascinating thing about the 1968 penny is that, despite being over 50 years old, there are still plenty in circulation. That means the potential for finding one in your pocket change is very real. While the odds of stumbling upon a high-grade or error variety are slim, they're not impossible. In fact, many collectors have discovered valuable coins in the most unexpected places. From garage sales to coin rolls bought from the bank. Let's not forget the historical connection. Every coin is a time capsule. That 1968 penny in your hand might have been in the pocket of someone who attended Woodstock, or perhaps it was spent at a corner store by a young person during the Vietnam War era. It could have traveled across the country, through countless hands, each with its own story, before ending up in your collection. For collectors, part of the appeal is owning a tangible piece of history. It's not just about the monetary value, though that certainly adds excitement. It's also about preserving a fragment of the past that might otherwise vanish into obscurity. Now, let's talk about the market for these coins. Over the years, demand for high-quality 1968 Lincoln cents has grown steadily, particularly among those seeking to complete their Lincoln Memorial series in top grades. Auction houses and online marketplaces have seen impressive results, with collectors willing to pay substantial sums for coins that meet their exacting standards. Here's the important takeaway. If you come across a 1968 penny, don't dismiss it too quickly. Examine it carefully for luster, strike sharpness, and any signs of doubling or minting anomalies. Even if you're not an expert, there are many resources and coin grading services that can authenticate and assess your find. Collectors often protect high-grade pennies in airtight holders to prevent further exposure to air and handling damage. If you suspect you have a rare or valuable one, storing it safely is essential. The tiniest fingerprint can affect its grade and consequently its value. In recent years, as precious metals and collectibles have become more appealing to investors, interest in vintage coins like the 1968 Lincoln cent has surged. While it may never have the fame of a 1909 SVDB or a 1955 double die, it has carved out its own niche among enthusiasts who appreciate its subtle beauty, potential for errors, and the thrill of the hunt. And remember, coin collecting is as much about the journey as it is about the destination. Whether you find a modestly valuable coin or a truly extraordinary one, each discovery deepens your appreciation for history, craftsmanship, and the little details that make something rare. So, if you're sifting through spare change tonight, take a moment to check the dates and mint marks. Who knows? You might be holding a piece of numismatic treasure without even realizing it. And if that treasure happens to be in exceptional condition, with a touch of rarity in its strike, you could be in for quite a surprise. After all, a coin that once bought a single piece of candy could, under the right circumstances, buy something far more significant today. And that brings us to the ultimate question: just how much could the rarest and most pristine examples of the 1968 Lincoln 1-cent penny be worth? Well, prepare yourself, because in the world of coin collecting, surprises like this are what keep people searching, examining, and dreaming. The highest recorded price for one of these exceptional coins has reached an astounding $43,669. In the fascinating world of coin collecting, there exists a realm where small, unassuming pieces of metal can hold unimaginable value. A world where a coin you might casually glance at, slip into your pocket, or even spend without a second thought could actually be worth thousands of dollars to the right buyer. And among these treasures, one particular coin from the United States has captured the attention of collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters for decades. The 1970 D Mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it might seem like just another ordinary penny. Its copper tone bears the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, and on the reverse, it proudly displays the Lincoln Memorial, the same design millions of Americans have handled countless times. But what if I told you that hidden among the billions of pennies minted in 1970, there exists a rare and highly sought-after variety that could transform an ordinary day into an extraordinary payday? That's the incredible allure of the 1970 D Lincoln penny, a coin that combines history, mystery, and a touch of numismatic magic. To fully appreciate why this coin stands out, we have to go back to the beginning, the year 1970. The United States was in the midst of cultural change. The Vietnam War was ongoing, the Apollo 13 mission was testing the limits of human courage and ingenuity, and the American economy was navigating shifting tides. In the realm of coinage, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins each year to keep up with commerce. Denver, Colorado, home to the D Mint Mark, was one of the busiest production hubs, churning out massive quantities of pennies. But in that enormous production run, something unusual happened. A small number of 1970 D Lincoln pennies ended up being struck in ways that deviated from the norm, whether due to minor die varieties, striking errors, or unique minting characteristics that made them stand out to trained eyes. It's these subtle differences that ignite a collector's excitement, because in coin collecting, rarity and uniqueness are the twin engines that drive value sky high. One of the fascinating things about the 1970 D penny is how it blends in so well with the rest of the coins in circulation. This makes it the perfect, hidden treasure, the kind of coin you might find in a jar of change, a roll of pennies from the bank, or even in your grandmother's old coin purse. Unlike flashy collectibles that announce themselves at first sight, this coin quietly waits for the right person to recognize its significance. And that, in itself, adds to its charm. But what exactly should collectors look for? While I'm not giving away every single diagnostic detail here, let's just say that trained eyes know to look for subtle differences in the coin's strike, details in the date, and the overall quality of the planchet. These characteristics are often a result of limited minting runs or unusual die usage that makes some examples far rarer than the rest. The Denver Mint, where the 1970 D penny originates, has long been known for producing coins with excellent quality. But no mint is perfect, and every so often, quirks in production lead to variations that are almost like secret signatures in the world of coinage. It's these quirks that fuel the dreams of hobbyists who spend hours searching through rolls of coins, magnifying glass in hand, hoping for that one incredible find. In fact, some dedicated coin hunters spend their weekends visiting banks, requesting boxes of rolled pennies, and combing through thousands of coins at a time. They know that the thrill isn't just in the potential payout, it's in the hunt itself. The moment when your eyes catch something different, something unexpected, and you realize you might be holding a valuable piece of history, that's what makes it so addictive. And make no mistake, the 1970 D Lincoln penny is more than just a potential payday. It's a small piece of American history. Each one of these coins has traveled through countless hands, perhaps been part of everyday transactions decades ago, or sat untouched in a collection for years. Every nick, every bit of luster, tells part of its journey. When you hold one, you're holding a tiny artifact from a time when gas was just 36 cents a gallon, the Beatles had just broken up, and Richard Nixon was president. Collectors also appreciate the artistry behind the design. The obverse, featuring Abraham Lincoln, is the work of Victor David Brenner, whose portrait has graced the penny since 1909. The reverse, displaying the Lincoln Memorial, was introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth. These designs have become so ingrained in American life that it's easy to overlook their artistic merit. But on a rare 1970 D penny in pristine condition, the details truly come to life. The fine lines of Lincoln's hair, The sharp definition of the memorial's columns and the clarity of the lettering all speak to the craftsmanship of the U.S. Mint. Another factor driving interest in this coin is its scarcity in high grades. While billions of pennies were made in 1970, most entered circulation immediately, suffering wear and tear from years of use. Finding one in mint state condition, with its original luster intact and virtually no contact marks, is exceptionally rare. And in the world of coin collecting, condition is king. A coin with even the slightest blemish can see its value drop dramatically, while a flawless example can command jaw-dropping prices. Over the years, stories have surfaced of lucky finds, everyday people who stumbled upon rare 1970 pennies in their change and later discovered their hidden value. Some of these coins have made their way to prestigious auctions, where fierce bidding wars have erupted among collectors eager to secure them. It's a reminder that the treasures of numismatics aren't locked away in museums or vaults. They're out there, waiting to be discovered. If you're wondering how to start your own search, it's simpler than you might think. Begin by setting aside any 1970 pennies you come across. Examine them closely under good lighting, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe. Look for sharp details, unusual features, and overall quality. And if you think you've found something special, consider having it authenticated and graded by a reputable service. A certified grade can make all the difference when it comes to selling, as it assures buyers of the coin's authenticity and condition. The journey of finding a rare penny is often as rewarding as owning one. It connects you to a community of fellow enthusiasts, people who share tips, trade stories, and celebrate each other's finds. Coin shows, online forums, and local clubs are great places to meet other collectors and expand your knowledge. And the more you learn, the better your chances of spotting that one extraordinary coin among thousands of ordinary ones. What makes the 1970 Lincoln penny particularly captivating is that it represents the perfect blend of accessibility and rarity. On one hand, it's a coin anyone can look for without spending a fortune. On the other, its rare varieties and pristine examples are so scarce that owning one feels like holding a small miracle. This combination keeps the legend of the 1970 penny alive in the minds of collectors and treasure hunters alike. There's also something deeply satisfying about the idea that value can be hidden in plain sight. In a world where so many collectibles are created to be rare, limited editions, special releases, and artificially scarce items, the 1970 penny is different. Its rarity wasn't planned or marketed. It happened naturally, through the unpredictable quirks of the minting process and the passage of time. That authenticity makes it all the more special. Imagine this, somewhere out there, perhaps in a forgotten jar of change or tucked away in an old desk drawer, there could be a 1970 penny waiting to be found. It's been decades since it left the Denver Mint, and it's traveled an untold journey. Maybe it was part of someone's first paycheck, or maybe it was the coin a child dropped into a gumball machine in the early 70s. Wherever it's been, its story is still unfolding, and you could be the next chapter. So, as you go about your day, keep your eyes open. Pay attention to the small details in the coins you handle. Because while the odds might seem slim, the possibility is real. People have found rare coins before, and they will again. And when it comes to the 1970 Lincoln penny, the reward for your attention could be life-changing. In the world of numismatics, moments like these, when an everyday object reveals itself to be something extraordinary, are what keep the passion alive. They remind us that history is all around us, not just in museums or textbooks, but in the coins we use, the currency we exchange, and the artifacts we unknowingly carry in our pockets. And so, we come to the question that has been lingering throughout this entire story: just how much could one of these remarkable 1970 Lincoln 1-cent pennies be worth? The answer, in certain pristine, highly graded, and rare condition cases, is an astonishing $39,476. In the world of coin collecting, there are certain coins that appear so ordinary at first glance that you might pass them by without a second thought. They look like the ones you've seen countless times in your spare change. They weigh the same, feel the same, and carry the same familiar design you've known for years. But behind that seemingly ordinary face, some of these coins hide secrets secrets that can transform a single penny into a valuable treasure worth more than most people could imagine. Today, we're going to talk about one such coin. A small, copper-colored piece of American history minted nearly half a century ago, the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. On the surface, it's just another penny from the late 1970s. But dig a little deeper, and you'll discover why certain examples of this coin have captured the attention of collectors, dealers, and treasure hunters from around the world. Before we uncover the value, let's go back in time. The year was 1977. America was celebrating its bicentennial spirit just a year earlier, and the country was going through a period of change. The cost of living was climbing, music was shifting, and on the streets, the coins in people's pockets quietly marked the everyday moments of life. Among them was the Lincoln cent, a coin that had already been in circulation for decades. The Lincoln penny was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it featured the now iconic profile of the 16th president on the obverse, with wheat ears on the reverse. By 1959, the wheat design was replaced with the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo, giving the penny a new look that would last for decades. Fast forward to 1977, and the Lincoln Memorial design was still going strong. But here's where the details matter. Pennies minted in Philadelphia traditionally did not carry a mint mark during that time. The absence of a mint mark was simply the standard for Philadelphia coins, making the no mint mark pennies of 1977 normal, or so it seems. However, the truth is that certain examples from this year have caught the eye of collectors due to their remarkable condition, unusual striking errors, and pristine preservation. Most pennies from 1977 were struck in large numbers, hundreds of millions, in fact. They were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, weighing about 3.11 grams. Copper was still affordable to use, and the coin's solid feel and rich reddish-brown tone were familiar to Americans of the time. But here's the thing, not all coins are created equal. While the vast majority went straight into circulation, clinking around in pockets and cash registers, a small fraction came off the presses with exceptional quality or rare minting characteristics that have made them highly sought after today. The key to identifying a valuable 1977 no-mint mark penny lies in its condition and any unusual details it might have. If you come across one in uncirculated or mint state condition, you could be holding a piece that commands a surprising premium. Coins graded at the highest levels, such as MS-66 or MS-67 by professional grading services, are incredibly scarce. The reason? Copper is a soft metal that scratches, spots, and dulls easily. Finding a 1977 penny that's been perfectly preserved for decades is like finding a needle in a haystack. Collectors also look for striking errors and die varieties. These can include double dies, off-center strikes, or even misaligned dies. A double die penny, for instance, will show noticeable doubling on the date, lettering, or Lincoln's profile, creating a dramatic visual difference from a normal coin. Off-center strikes, on the other hand, can give the penny an unusual, almost abstract appearance, something that makes them stand out instantly in a collection. These kinds of errors are accidental products of the minting process, and when combined with the date 1977, they can push the value of the coin far beyond its humble face value. Now, you might be wondering, if the 1977 no-mint mark penny is common, how do you spot the extraordinary ones? The answer lies in three main factors: rarity, demand, and condition. A rare coin that collectors want, and that has been preserved in flawless shape, becomes a candidate for high auction prices. And when you have all three of these factors lining up perfectly, you have the makings of a true numismatic gem. The journey of these coins from everyday change to auction house spotlight is fascinating. Many of the finest examples have been tucked away for decades in coin rolls, jars, or collections where they've avoided the wear and tear of normal use. Some were saved by collectors right from the moment they were minted, placed in protective holders, and kept away from moisture, fingerprints, and environmental damage. These preserved treasures, when graded by experts, have achieved top marks and become the stars of coin shows and auctions. Over the years, the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has gained attention not just for its errors or rarity in top condition, but also as part of a growing interest in modern-era coins. Collectors are increasingly recognizing that high-grade examples of more recent coins can be just as valuable, and sometimes more so, than older, heavily worn pieces from earlier centuries. This shift has encouraged people to look closely at the coins they already have at home, hunting for that one flawless piece. Imagine this for a moment. You're sifting through a jar of pennies, perhaps on a rainy afternoon, not expecting to find anything of note. And then, you see it, a 1977 penny that catches the light just right, its surface gleaming, free from scratches, nicks, or tarnish. The date is crisp, Lincoln's profile sharp, and the details of the Lincoln Memorial perfectly defined. You decide to have it graded, and the results come back at one of the highest possible levels. Suddenly, that 1-cent piece is no longer worth a single penny, it's a small fortune in the palm of your hand. That is the magic of coin collecting. It turns everyday items into potential treasures. It makes history something you can hold, study, and even profit from. And in the case of the 1977 no-mint mark penny, it proves that even coins from the recent past can carry incredible value under the right circumstances. Stories from collectors add to the allure. There are accounts of people finding these coins in old piggy banks, coffee cans, or forgotten drawers, coins that hadn't seen the light of day in decades. Others have stumbled upon them in pocket change after a quick grocery store run. The thrill of such a discovery is hard to describe. It's part history lesson, part treasure hunt, and part stroke of pure luck. For anyone hoping to find one of these valuable 1977 pennies, the best advice is to check your coins carefully. Look for those with the deepest luster, sharpest strike, and fewest blemishes. If possible, use a magnifying glass to spot tiny imperfections or details that might suggest a rare error. And if you think you've found something special, consider having it professionally graded. That official certification can make all the difference when it comes to selling or auctioning a coin. What makes this story even more exciting is that these coins are still out there. Somewhere, in a jar of change, a desk drawer, or an old box in an attic, a nearly perfect 1977 no-mint mark penny could be waiting. The only question is, who will find it next? It's important to remember that while millions of 1977 pennies exist, only a small fraction are in the kind of condition that attracts top dollar from collectors. This rarity, combined with growing demand, is why some examples have reached astonishing values at auction. The idea that a single penny could be worth thousands is part of what fuels the passion of numismatists everywhere. So next time you get change from a store, or you're sorting through a coin jar at home, pause for a moment. Look closely at each penny. History has a funny way of hiding in plain sight, and you might just be holding something extraordinary without even realizing it. And now, for the part you've been waiting for. The record value for one of the finest examples of the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny ever sold. In the right condition, graded at the highest levels, one of these unassuming little coins reached an incredible price of $49,889. In the world of coin collecting, there are certain dates, mint marks, and conditions that transform an ordinary-looking penny into something far more fascinating. While most people glance at a penny and think it's worth no more than 1 cent, seasoned collectors know that a small difference in year, mint mark, or condition can change everything. One such coin that has been gaining attention over the years is the 1980 D-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a piece that, in the right condition, can be worth far more than the face value printed on it. Now, before we dive deep into the details of why this particular coin is so special, let's set the scene. Picture 1980, the United States was transitioning into a new decade. Ronald Reagan was gearing up for his presidential campaign, inflation had people clutching their wallets, and coinage was still being produced in massive numbers to keep up with everyday commerce. But even in those massive mint runs, there were unique survivors, coins that came off the presses with remarkable quality, rare varieties, or minting quirks that would one day make them highly desirable among collectors. The Lincoln cent series itself has a rich history. First introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, It replaced the Indian head cent and became one of the longest-running coin designs in U.S. history. By 1980, the Lincoln cent had already been in production for over 70 years, with minor design modifications but a steadfast presence in American pockets and purses. The D Mint mark, found just below the date on the coin, indicates it was struck at the Denver Mint, a facility known for producing billions of coins annually, yet still capable of yielding some hidden treasures for those who know what to look for. When it comes to the 1980 D Lincoln penny, most people think of it as a common coin. After all, over 5 billion were struck that year. But here's where it gets interesting. Rarity isn't just about mintage numbers. It's also about condition, striking quality, and in some cases, unusual errors. A coin that has survived more than 4 decades without any noticeable wear, still gleaming with its original mint luster, is a rarity in itself. And if that coin has been graded by a professional grading service with a high mint state grade, its value can skyrocket. One of the key factors in determining a penny's worth is grade, a measure of how well it has been preserved since the day it left the mint. Most pennies in circulation are worn down from years of use. They've been dropped, scratched, tossed in pockets with keys, and rattled around in cash registers. But a select few were never spent, often kept aside by collectors or accidentally stored away in rolls, preserving them in nearly perfect condition. These coins are classified in the mint state category, with grades ranging from MS60, good but with some minor marks, to MS70, flawless perfection. For the 1980 D penny, finding an MS67 or MS68 example is extremely difficult, and that's where the big money lies. At these high grades, the coin will have razor-sharp details, brilliant red luster, and no distracting blemishes. Coins like this stand out instantly to a trained eye. Imagine seeing Lincoln's profile so crisp that you can practically feel the texture of his hair and coat, all while the flat parts of the coin, shine like a mirror. That's the kind of coin that gets collectors' hearts racing. Beyond grade, there's another fascinating aspect to the 1980 D penny: errors and varieties. During minting, mistakes sometimes happen, and when they do, they can create highly collectible coins. Some 1980 D pennies have been found with off-center strikes, where part of the design is missing because the coin blank was misaligned during striking. Others have double die errors, where parts of the design, like the date or lettering, appear double due to a die misalignment. Even small variations like an unusually strong strike or a planchet flaw can make a coin unique. These errors often fetch a premium far beyond the regular value of the coin. Now, let's talk about metal composition. By 1980, the U.S. Mint was still producing pennies primarily from 95% copper and 5% zinc, a composition that had been used for decades. These copper pennies are heavier and have a richer color compared to the zinc-based pennies introduced in 1982. Collectors often prefer the pre-1982 copper cents not only for their durability, but also for their intrinsic metal value. With copper prices fluctuating over the years, some people have even hoarded these older cents for their melt value, though melting U.S. cents for their metal content is currently illegal. So why exactly would someone pay hundreds, or even thousands, of dollars for a 1980 D penny? It comes down to a combination of scarcity in top condition, collector demand, and sometimes a dash of luck. The collector market values coins that are both historically significant and visually stunning. A coin with blazing original red color, sharp details, and no distracting marks is not just a piece of change, it's a miniature work of art, preserved against the odds for decades. Another reason the 1980 D penny is noteworthy is the nostalgia factor. Many collectors today grew up in the 1980s and have fond memories of using coins like these in everyday life. For them, owning a pristine example of a coin from their childhood isn't just about investment, it's about preserving a tangible piece of their own history. And as time goes on, the number of pristine coins from 1980 will only shrink, driving demand even higher. When assessing the value of your own 1980 D penny, you'll want to follow a few steps. First, examine the coin under good lighting and, if possible, with a magnifying glass. Look for sharp details in Lincoln's hair and beard, strong definition in the lettering, and a bright, untarnished color. Any signs of scratches, discoloration, or wear will lower the grade. Second, check for any unusual features, doubled lettering, off-center strikes, or other abnormalities. Third, if you think you have a particularly high-grade example, consider sending it to a reputable coin grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication and grading. A certified high-grade coin often commands a much higher price than one that's simply described as nice or uncirculated. It's worth noting that while most 1980D pennies will only be worth a small premium over face value, the rarest and highest grade examples are where the serious money is. Auction records show that certain top-graded specimens have sold for impressive amounts, and as with many collectibles, prices can fluctuate based on market trends, collector interest, and the availability of comparable coins. The story of the 1980D penny is a reminder that treasures can still be hiding in plain sight. That jar of change sitting on your kitchen counter might contain more than just spare coins. It could be holding a tiny piece of history worth far more than you imagine. And that's the thrill of coin collecting, the possibility that the next coin you pick up could be something extraordinary. So the next time you come across a penny with a 1980 date and a little D mint mark beneath it, don't just toss it aside. Take a closer look. Check its condition, admire the craftsmanship, and think about the journey it's taken over the last 4 decades. From the clatter of minting presses in Denver to the hands of millions of Americans, each coin has its own silent story. And who knows? You might just be holding one of the rare gems, one that could make any collector's eyes light up and wallets open wide. Because in the world of numismatics, it's not just about the metal or the mintage, it's about the history, the rarity, and the magic of discovering something truly special. After all, a humble penny may not seem like much until you realize that the right one, in the right condition, can be valued at $18,989. In the world of American coins, there are countless designs, mintages, and dates that capture the attention of collectors. But every now and then, a coin emerges from history that not only sparks curiosity but also stirs a sense of mystery, leaving collectors and even experts in awe. Today, we're going to talk about one such coin, a small, reddish-brown piece of copper that might look ordinary at first glance, yet carries with it a surprising and fascinating story. We're talking about the United States of America 1981 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first, you might be thinking, it's just a penny from the 1980s. How can that be special? After all, the Lincoln penny is one of the most common coins in circulation. We've all seen them in our pockets, in our change jars, or stuck between couch cushions. But when you begin to understand the deeper history behind this coin, the unusual details in its production, and the rare qualities that make it valuable to collectors, you'll see why this particular date has become a fascinating piece of U.S. coinage history. Let's begin by going back in time to the year 1981. America was at the dawn of a new decade. Ronald Reagan had just taken office as president, and the economy was navigating its way through high inflation and shifting markets. While all this was happening on the national stage, the United States Mint was still producing the iconic Lincoln cent, a coin that had been in continuous production since 1909. For over 70 years, the Lincoln penny had been an enduring symbol in everyday commerce, bearing the portrait of President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse, designed by Victor David Brenner, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, designed by Frank Gasparo. By 1981, this design had already been in use for more than 2 decades on the memorial reverse, and millions upon millions of pennies rolled out of the mint each year. Now, here's where the story takes a turn. In 1981, the mint was still producing pennies made primarily from copper, 95% copper, to be exact, with the remaining 5% being a combination of tin and zinc. This composition had been standard for decades. However, the following year, in 1982, the mint made a significant change, switching to a primarily zinc composition coated with a thin layer of copper. This means that 1981 was among the last years the traditional copper penny was produced in large numbers. For collectors, this already makes the date historically significant. It represents the closing chapter of the classic copper Lincoln cent era. But what really sets the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny apart is not just the metal composition. It's the fact that this coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, the nation's oldest minting facility, and like all coins from Philadelphia before 1980, it carried no mint mark. The no mint mark doesn't mean the coin is fake or missing something due to an error. Rather, it was simply the mint's tradition. Coins from Philadelphia, unless they were special issues, typically did not carry a PE mint mark until the 1980s. However, despite being from Philadelphia, some examples of the 1981 penny stand out because of their remarkable condition, striking quality, or subtle die varieties. That's where collector interest begins to rise. In the world of coin collecting, condition is king. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth hundreds, or even thousands, comes down to how well it has been preserved. So what makes certain 1981 no mint mark Lincoln pennies so special? Let's dive into the details. First, there are coins that were struck with extraordinary sharpness, producing crisp, detailed lines in Lincoln's portrait and the tiny lettering along the rim. These coins often come from early die strikes, meaning the dies used to create them were fresh and sharp. Collectors prize these coins for their beauty and craftsmanship. Then, there are varieties, coins that differ slightly from the standard design due to changes or irregularities in the die. One of the most well-known varieties in the 1981 penny is related to the different hub styles used that year. In 1981, the Mint actually created two different obverse designs, known as Type 1 and Type 2. The difference is most noticeable in the shape of the letters in the word, Liberty, and the date. While subtle to the untrained eye, variety collectors will pay close attention to these details, as they can greatly influence a coin's desirability. Another factor is the coin's grade, a system used to describe a coin's condition, ranging from heavily worn in circulation to virtually flawless, as if it had just left the mint. In the case of the 1981 penny, examples in lower grades are common and worth face value. But when you find a coin that has been preserved in pristine condition, free of scratches, dents, or discoloration, it can be worth much more. The highest grades, such as MS-67 or MS-68, mint state, are extremely rare for this coin and can fetch significant prices at auction. Let's not forget about proof coins, special coins struck for collectors using highly polished dies and planchets. Proof versions of the 1981 penny were made at the San Francisco Mint and do carry an S mint mark, but since we're focusing on the no mint mark variety from Philadelphia, the standard business strikes are our main interest here. Over the decades, the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny has quietly gained a following among coin enthusiasts. Part of the appeal is its transitional position in U.S. coin history, the last full year before the major metal change of 1982, and a year that still featured the classic copper composition. Another part is the challenge of finding high-grade examples, especially since most pennies from this era were quickly spent and circulated for years before anyone thought to save them. Imagine finding one of these coins in your pocket change today, perfectly preserved, with brilliant original luster, sharp details, and no signs of wear. For a collector, that's like finding a time capsule from 1981, a tiny piece of history that has somehow avoided decades of circulation. Stories have emerged over the years of people discovering rare pennies in the most unexpected places: a box of coins inherited from a relative, a jar of change saved in the back of a closet, or even tucked inside old furniture. Sometimes, these discoveries turn out to be valuable treasures, worth far more than their face value. And that's exactly the kind of possibility that makes hunting for coins like the 1981 no mint mark Lincoln penny so exciting. Coin collectors often say that the thrill is in the hunt, the joy of searching through rolls of coins from the bank, inspecting each one under a magnifying glass, and learning the subtle differences that separate a rare coin from a common one. With the 1981 no mint mark penny, the hunt can be particularly rewarding because while the coin is common in average condition, finding an extraordinary example can mean holding something truly special. So, how do you know if your 1981 no mint mark penny might be valuable? Here are a few things to look for. First, examine the coin's condition. If it still has its original copper red color, shows no signs of wear, and has sharp details, it could be worth having professionally graded. Second, check for die varieties, subtle differences in the lettering, date, or other design elements that can make certain examples rarer than others. And third, consider the coin's luster and eye appeal. A bright, attractive coin will always attract more attention from collectors. Professional grading services, such as PCGS or NGC, can authenticate your coin and assign it a grade, which is a key factor in determining its market value. Coins that achieve grades in the high mint state range are the ones that tend to command the highest prices at auction. Of course, not every 1981 no-mint mark penny will be worth a fortune. The vast majority are still just worth their face value, and many show the signs of heavy circulation. But the rare, high-grade examples, those few survivors that look as fresh as the day they were struck, are the ones that get collectors excited. And here's where the story comes full circle. A seemingly ordinary penny, something you might pass over without a second thought, can actually be a hidden treasure. It's a reminder that history is often hiding in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by someone curious enough to look closely. The 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a perfect example of this, a humble coin that tells a story about the end of an era, the artistry of coin design, and the enduring appeal of collecting. Whether you're a seasoned numismatist or just someone who enjoys the thrill of the hunt, this little copper piece from 1981 is worth paying attention to. Because in the world of coin collecting, it's not always the oldest or the shiniest coin that captures the imagination. Sometimes, it's the one that quietly carries a piece of history in its design, its metal, and even in the absence of a mint mark. And if you happen to find one in spectacular condition, you might just be holding something that collectors will compete to own. In the world of coin collecting, there are certain years and mint marks that stand out as true treasures. Some are famous for their rarity, others for their unique eras, and some for their place in American history. But today, we're turning our attention to one penny that might look entirely ordinary to the untrained eye, a small copper-plated coin that millions of Americans have handled without a second thought. Yet, for collectors, the 1983 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny holds a fascinating story, one of change, transition, and the possibility of hidden fortune. Let's begin by stepping back into the early 1980s. It was a decade of dramatic shifts in American culture, economy, and even the smallest things, like coins in your pocket. In 1982, the United States Mint made a major decision to change the composition of the Lincoln cent. Up until then, pennies were made of 95% copper and 5% zinc, giving them a heavier feel and a richer color. But copper prices had risen so high that the cost of producing a penny was approaching, or even exceeding, its face value. This wasn't sustainable. So, in mid-1982, the Mint introduced a new composition, a core made almost entirely of zinc, plated with a thin layer of copper. This reduced the weight of the coin from 3.11 grams to just 2.5 grams. For collectors, this was a pivotal moment, because any coin struck during this transition could carry the possibility of unusual varieties or minting anomalies. Fast forward to 1983. This was the first full year that every penny produced at the Denver Mint, the D Mint mark, was made from this new copper-plated zinc composition. By this time, production methods were well established. Millions upon millions of 1983 D pennies were struck, each bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. On paper, it might seem like nothing special, just another mass-produced coin destined to jingle in pockets and rest in change jars. But as any serious numismatist will tell you, the devil is in the details. For one thing, 1983 D pennies are a key target for those hunting for famous minting errors. The most notable is the 1983 double die reverse, where the inscriptions on the reverse side, such as 1 cent or E pluribus unum, appear slightly doubled under magnification. Though most double die examples are from Philadelphia minted coins without a mint mark, Denver's production still saw its fair share of striking issues. Misaligned dies, weak strikes, and even off-center strikes can dramatically increase a coin's desirability. Then there's the matter of condition. Because pennies circulate heavily, finding one in pristine mint state condition is challenging. The 1983 D penny, being over 40 years old now, has often been worn down, nicked, or corroded. Those that have somehow survived in flawless, lustrous condition, especially ones graded MS67 or higher by professional grading services, are remarkably scarce. The difference in value between a common circulated penny and a high-grade gem can be shocking. Imagine holding a coin that most people would spend without hesitation, yet realizing it's a survivor of decades, kept safe from the scratches and wear of daily life. Its original luster still dances in the light, with Lincoln's profile sharply defined and every tiny detail of the memorial clear and crisp. For a collector, that's not just a penny, it's a time capsule. But condition alone isn't the only factor in determining value. Provenance, eye appeal, and even subtle color variations can play a role. Some 1983 pennies developed stunning natural toning, hues of blue, purple, or gold that enhance their visual allure. While toning doesn't always guarantee a higher value, exceptional examples with attractive patterns can command premium prices from enthusiasts. Another fascinating element of the 1983 penny is its place in the broader context of U.S. coinage history. The transition to zinc-core pennies in 1982 wasn't just about saving money. It was a symbolic reflection of the times. Inflation, rising metal costs, and changing economic priorities meant that even something as small as a 1-cent piece had to evolve. This shift marked the end of an era for copper coinage in America, and the 1983 was part of the first wave of pennies that would carry on for decades in their new form. This makes 1983 pennies not just collectible for their potential rarity, but also historically significant. They are representatives of a turning point, coins that tell the story of economic pressures and practical solutions. To a collector, that's as valuable as any precious metal content. Now, let's talk about the Denver Mint itself. The D. Mint mark has long been associated with coins produced in the heart of Colorado. Known for its massive production capacity, the Denver Mint struck billions of coins each year. In 1983, the output was enormous. Yet, even in such large-scale production, anomalies could slip through. A slightly misaligned die here, a planchet error there, and suddenly, you have a variety that sharp-eyed collectors chase for years. Some of the most exciting discoveries are made by everyday people, those who sift through rolls of pennies from the bank, or who dump out their change jars for the first time in years. A 1983 penny might not look like a treasure to a casual observer, but under the scrutiny of a magnifying glass, a hidden doubling or a near-perfect strike can transform it into a valuable prize. It's this possibility of finding something extraordinary in the ordinary that keeps coin hunting such a beloved hobby. Grading plays a vital role in determining just how much a 1983 penny might be worth. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a flawless, perfect specimen. Most 1983 pennies in circulation today would grade somewhere between very fine, VF, and extremely fine, XF, if they've been well cared for. Uncirculated examples, especially those with vibrant luster and no contact marks, are far rarer. And those at the top of the grading scale, MS67 or MS68, are so scarce that collectors are willing to pay impressive sums to own them. There's also the thrill of variety hunting. In some cases, 1983 pennies may exhibit minor die cracks, die chips, or unusual metal flow lines, all small details that can add character and value. Each coin is, in a way, unique, even if millions share the same design. Collectors often say that a coin's value isn't just in the metal, but in the story it tells. The 1983 penny tells a story of a nation adapting, of the mint refining its processes, and of the enduring appeal of Lincoln's image, a design that has graced the 1-cent piece since 1909. It's a story of how something as humble as a penny can become a sought-after collectible, a reminder that treasures can hide in plain sight. And here's the real kicker. While most 1983 pennies are worth only face value in worn condition, certain examples in exceptional state can sell for staggering amounts at auction. High-grade pieces, especially those certified and slabbed by respected grading services, have been known to reach impressive figures. When the right combination of rarity, condition, and demand comes together, even a coin most people overlook can achieve a value that seems unbelievable for a penny. Think about it. This small coin, light enough to be lost between couch cushions, has traveled through decades of American life. It has passed through countless hands, perhaps purchased a cup of coffee, a bus ticket, or a newspaper. Yet, if it has survived unscathed, with every detail sharp and every surface pristine, it could be worth far more than anyone would expect. This is why collectors keep searching, why they check every penny they come across. Because you never know when you might stumble upon one of these rare survivors, a coin that tells a story, holds a piece of history, and carries a surprising value. So the next time you find a 1983 D Lincoln cent in your change, take a closer look. Check the condition, examine the details, and maybe even weigh it to see if it's one of the rare transitional errors. It could be nothing, or it could be something truly special, and for those exceptionally rare, high-grade examples, the value can climb into impressive territory. In fact, one of these remarkable coins in top condition has been known to fetch as much as $39,777. Imagine holding a small, copper-colored coin in your palm, light enough to forget in your pocket, yet powerful enough to make history. It's a penny, yes, but not just any penny. It's a coin from 1983 that could quietly sit in a jar for decades before someone realizes it's worth more than a brand new car. The United States of America has minted billions of pennies over the years, but some have secrets, tiny details invisible to most eyes, that transform them from pocket change into treasures. The 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is one of those mysterious treasures. At first glance, it looks like every other penny you've ever seen. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back, the warm metallic tone you've seen since childhood. But hidden in its very creation is a combination of history, technology, and pure chance that makes certain examples extraordinarily valuable. To understand why this coin is so special, we need to step back in time to the early 1980s. The United States Mint was making a major change in the composition of pennies. For decades, these coins were made mostly of copper, but rising metal prices made it too expensive to keep producing them that way. In 1982, the Mint decided to switch to a copper-plated zinc composition, cheaper to produce but with a completely different core metal. This change happened mid-year, which means both copper and zinc pennies exist for 1982. But by 1983, the Mint had fully transitioned to zinc-based cents. The catch? This new composition also introduced new challenges, including striking details, die wear, and, most importantly, errors. The no mint mark part of the 1983 penny's name means it was made at the Philadelphia Mint, which at the time didn't put a mint mark on its coins. Most people see no mint mark and think it's normal, but collectors know that even small details can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and one worth thousands. With the 1983 no mint mark penny, the intrigue comes from the fact that some of these coins have unusual characteristics that occurred purely by accident. One of the key things collectors look for in 1983 pennies is the possibility of a doubled die. A doubled die happens when the coin's design is impressed onto the dime more than once in slightly different positions. The result is lettering and numbers that look like they're shadowed or layered. On certain 1983 pennies, especially in the word Liberty, or the date, this doubling is dramatic and easily visible to the naked eye. If you've ever seen a coin where the letters look like they're echoing themselves, you've seen an example of a doubled die. But even without dramatic doubling, 1983 no mint mark pennies can hold value due to their condition, rarity in high grades, and certain minting quirks. Condition is everything in the coin world. Think of coins as survivors. They've been dropped, handled, scraped, and spent over the years. Finding one from 1983 that still looks almost brand new, with full luster and sharp detail, is like discovering a perfectly preserved photograph in an old attic. Most pennies from that year are dull, scratched, and worn from decades of circulation. But the rare few that escaped heavy use are the ones that excite collectors. The Lincoln cent design on the 1983 penny is part of a tradition that began in 1909. When the United States honored the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth by placing his portrait on the 1-cent coin. Designed by Victor David Brenner, it was the first regular-issue U.S. coin to feature a real person's image. That tradition continued through 1983, and even though the design might seem ordinary to us today, it carries deep symbolism. Lincoln's profile represents leadership during one of the most turbulent times in American history, while the reverse side, featuring the Lincoln Memorial, was a reminder of unity and resilience. In 1983, the Philadelphia Mint struck hundreds of millions of these no-mint mark pennies. So you might wonder, if there are so many, why is one worth so much? The answer lies in the tiny percentage that survived in pristine, untouched condition, or the even tinier group that have a striking error or unusual die variety. It's like a massive field of sand where, hidden among billions of grains, a few perfect diamonds are waiting to be found. Collectors often seek out uncirculated examples, which are coins that were never used in everyday transactions. These coins still have their original mint luster, a kind of reflective sheen that catches the light beautifully. For the 1983 no-mint mark penny, finding one in such condition is rare enough to drive demand. And when you pair that with a known variety, such as a doubled die, the value can skyrocket. Another interesting twist with the 1983 penny is that, because of the relatively new zinc core, these coins are more susceptible to corrosion if damaged. If the copper plating is scratched deeply enough to expose the zinc underneath, the coin can start to deteriorate. That means that even a minor blemish can drastically reduce a coin's value. This fragility makes it even harder to find high-grade examples today. Many that may have been near perfect when minted are now pitted or stained, rendering them unsuitable for serious collectors. The Philadelphia Mint itself is a fascinating piece of history. Established in 1792, it's the oldest mint facility in the United States. In 1983, the Philadelphia Mint was producing millions of coins daily, operating with incredible precision. Yet, even with advanced machinery, human oversight, and strict quality control, the minting process isn't immune to error. And it's those rare mistakes, like off-center strikes, broad strikes, or die clashes, that can turn a mundane penny into a collector's dream. For anyone hoping to find a 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln penny worth serious money, the journey often begins in the most ordinary places: a coffee shop's change jar, a forgotten coin bank, or even a handful of coins from a friend's purse. The hunt itself is part of the thrill. Every time you pick up a penny and flip it over to check the date, you're engaging in a quiet treasure hunt, a search for something remarkable hiding in plain sight. When grading coins like the 1983 no-mint mark penny, professional services such as PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, examine every detail under magnification. They evaluate strike quality, luster, color, and any imperfections. A difference of just 1 point on their grading scale can mean hundreds or even thousands of dollars in value. For example, a penny graded MS65 is considered gem uncirculated, with only tiny imperfections visible under magnification, while an MS67 is nearly flawless. In the coin world, perfection is rare, and rarity means value. What's particularly fascinating about the 1983 penny is how easily it could have slipped through history unnoticed. It's not a coin tied to a famous national event or a limited commemorative issue. It's a workhorse of the American economy, a coin made for the simple act of buying everyday goods. And yet, here we are, decades later, talking about how a single one of these can outshine its humble origins. This coin also teaches us something about the unpredictability of value. In the early 1980s, no one was setting aside 1,983 pennies in hopes of striking it rich decades later. People were focused on earning and spending, not hoarding modern cents. That's why so few pristine examples exist today. No one thought to save them. It's a lesson in how everyday objects can become prized artifacts over time, simply because they survived in perfect condition, while their counterparts did not. In the world of coin collecting, stories like this are what keep people searching. Every rare coin has its own backstory, shaped by historical events, economic decisions, and pure chance. The 1983 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is more than a piece of metal. It's a snapshot of American history, a testament to craftsmanship, and proof that even the most ordinary things can become extraordinary. So next time you see a penny lying on the sidewalk, think twice before walking past it. That tiny coin could be a forgotten piece of history, waiting for someone with a keen eye to recognize its value. Check the date, look closely at the details, and remember that treasures don't always glitter like gold, sometimes they gleam softly in copper. And as for the 1983 no mint Mark Lincoln penny in exceptional condition, the kind that makes collectors' hearts race, one of those beauties has been known to sell for as much as $23,499. In the vast world of coin collecting, certain coins stand out not because they are ancient relics or made from precious metals, but because of their story, rarity, and unexpected value. Today, we're diving into a fascinating chapter in modern American coin history, the story of the United States of America 1993 D. Lincoln 1-cent penny. On the surface, it's a common coin, the kind you might still find rattling in your change jar or lying forgotten in an old desk drawer. But hidden among the countless millions of 1993 D pennies are examples that have stunned collectors with their beauty, rarity, and jaw-dropping auction prices. This isn't just about a piece of copper-plated zinc, it's about history, design, minting quirks, and the thrill of realizing that something worth 1 cent could, under the right conditions, be worth thousands of dollars. And the best part? Some of these coins are still out there, waiting to be found. Let's set the scene. The year was 1993. The Denver Mint was producing Lincoln cents at an incredible pace, churning out hundreds of millions to meet the needs of commerce. The obverse still proudly displayed the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln, designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909, a design so timeless that it has now graced the penny for more than a century. On the reverse, the familiar image of the Lincoln Memorial, created by Frank Gasparo, stood as a symbol of unity and resilience. But even in such a high-production year, small variations and errors crept into the process. The Denver Mint, marked with its signature, D, just beneath the date, became home to a handful of pennies that were struck with exceptional quality, flawless luster, or rare minting errors. These are the coins that collectors covet, and they are the reason some 1993 D Lincoln cents have reached extraordinary values. To understand why these coins can be so valuable, we need to look at a few key factors that drive the price of any collectible coin: condition, rarity, and demand. First, condition. In coin collecting, condition is everything. A 1993 D penny pulled from circulation, showing years of wear and tear, is usually only worth face value. But a 1993 D penny in pristine, uncirculated condition, one that has never been spent, still gleaming with its original mint luster, is a completely different story. Coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70, with 70 representing a flawless example. A 1993 D penny that grades at the top of this scale, especially one certified by respected grading companies like PCGS or NGC, can command a premium price. Then, there's rarity. While millions of 1993 D pennies exist, only a tiny fraction survive in exceptional condition. Some have unique features like double dies, off-center strikes, or die cracks, which make them even more desirable. These minting errors are often one-of-a-kind or exist in very small numbers, so collectors are willing to pay significantly more to own them. Demand is the final piece of the puzzle. Lincoln cents are one of the most collected coins in the United States, and their popularity has remained steady for decades. From casual hobbyists to serious numismatists, countless collectors are always on the hunt for high-quality examples to complete their sets. This strong demand drives up the prices of the best specimens. Now, let's talk about some of the standout qualities you might find on a valuable 1993 D penny. The most coveted examples are those that have sharp, well-struck details. Lincoln's hairlines and the lettering on the coin should be crisp and defined. The surfaces should be free from nicks, scratches, or discoloration. A strong, vibrant red luster is especially prized because it indicates that the coin has been well preserved since leaving the mint. Some of the rare errors that have been found on 1993 D pennies include double die obverse errors, where the date and lettering appear slightly doubled due to a misalignment during the die-making process. Off-center strikes, where the design is shifted away from the center of the coin, can also add significant value. Even small die cracks, raised lines on the coin caused by a fractured minting die, can be of interest to collectors if they are prominent enough. It's also important to note that storage plays a huge role in preserving a coin's value. Coins that have been kept in protective holders or albums are far more likely to retain their mint luster than those that have been loose in change jars. This is why so many high-value coins are often discovered in old collections passed down through families, where they've been sitting untouched for decades. The journey of a valuable 1993 penny from pocket change to auction star is often a fascinating one. Sometimes, a coin will be discovered by a sharp-eyed collector who notices its exceptional condition while sorting through rolls of pennies from a bank. Other times, it's a lucky find by someone who had no idea the coin was special until they looked it up online or took it to a coin dealer. In some cases, these coins are part of massive collections assembled over years, only to be sold at auction where bidding wars drive the price higher and higher. For example, some auction records show that flawless examples of the 1993 penny in top grades can sell for several $100s or even into the thousands. But when you factor in unique errors or an exceptionally high grade, the prices can skyrocket. That's when these coins go from being interesting collectibles to jaw-dropping treasures. But how can you tell if your 1993 penny might be valuable? The first step is to examine it closely. Look for that D mint mark beneath the date, which confirms it was minted in Denver. Then, check the coin's overall condition. Is it bright and shiny, or dull and worn? Do you see any unusual features, such as doubling in the lettering or date? Is the design off-center or slightly distorted? These are all clues that your coin could be worth more than its face value. If you think you might have a valuable example, the next step is to have it professionally graded. While grading services do charge a fee, they also provide a certificate of authenticity and a detailed grade, which can significantly increase the coin's market value. Collectors trust these grades when buying coins, so a certified coin often sells more quickly and for a higher price than an uncertified one. It's also worth noting that the market for rare coins can be unpredictable. Prices can rise and fall based on trends, the economy, and even changes in collector preferences. However, the best quality coins, especially those with unique features, tend to hold their value well over time. In fact, many serious collectors view rare coins as a form of investment, something that can be enjoyed for its beauty and history while also appreciating in value. The 1993 Lincoln penny might not seem like a natural candidate for a high-value collectible. After all, it's a relatively recent coin, and billions were minted. But that's the beauty of coin collecting. Sometimes, the most surprising treasures are hidden in plain sight. A coin you've overlooked for years could turn out to be the highlight of your collection. In the world of numismatics, stories like this are what keep collectors passionate about the hobby. Every coin tells a story, from the moment it was struck to the hands it has passed through. And for the lucky owners of rare, high-grade 1993 pennies, that story includes the thrill of discovering that a simple cent could be worth a small fortune. So the next time you get change at the store, or you're sorting through an old jar of pennies, take a closer look. You might just find yourself holding a piece of modern American coin history, one that could change your perspective on the value of money forever. And speaking of value, some of these exceptional 1993 Lincoln 1-cent pennies have been known to sell for as much as $22,367. In the vast ocean of American coinage, there are pieces that shine not just because of the metal they are made from, but because of the incredible stories, mistakes, and quirks they carry with them. And today, we're diving into one of the most intriguing yet often overlooked coins, the 1996 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, you might think, what's so special about a penny from the 90s? We see them all the time. But here's where numismatic magic works its charm, because sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins can hold extraordinary value. And that's exactly what this little copper-coated beauty is all about. To appreciate its significance, we need to take a quick trip back in time to understand the era in which it was minted. The year was 1996. America was booming with economic optimism. The internet was beginning to change lives, technology was accelerating, and in Denver, Colorado, the U.S. Mint was striking billions of pennies, each bearing the familiar face of President Abraham Lincoln. Yet, hidden among these billions, a select few would later turn the heads of collectors, not for their age, but for their exceptional qualities, rare minting errors, and near impossible condition grades. The D Mint mark below the date is the giveaway that this coin was struck at the Denver Mint. Denver had long been producing coins for circulation, and in 1996, it was no different. Most of these pennies entered pockets, piggy banks, and vending machines. But the real reason collectors now keep a close watch on this year's Denver strikes is due to the few extraordinary examples that defied the odds and survived in pristine, almost untouched states. To the average spender, a 1996 penny may appear as nothing more than a standard copper-plated zinc cent. But numismatists, the dedicated coin collectors and historians, know there's more to it than meets the eye. What makes a coin like this valuable? The answer lies in three key factors: rarity, condition, and demand. First, let's talk about rarity, and here's where it gets fascinating. While the U.S. Mint produced over 6 billion pennies in 1996, most were quickly circulated, scratched, dented, and worn down by years of handling. Pennies are often the most mistreated coins in circulation, tossed into change jars, rolling around in glove compartments, or rattling in cash registers for decades. So, finding one that's in mint condition, without a single noticeable blemish, is no small feat. That's the first ingredient in its value. The second factor is condition, something graded on a very precise scale. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC use the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1 to 70. A grade of MS 70, mint state 70, means absolute perfection, no scratches, no dullness, no imperfections, even under magnification. For a coin struck in 1996 to achieve this is nearly miraculous, considering the mass production methods of the era and the tendency for coins to get small marks before they even leave the mint. A 1996 penny in this flawless condition is the kind that gets serious collectors competing fiercely. Then comes demand, and this is where the human element comes into play. The Lincoln Cent series, introduced in 1909, has a massive collector base. People love the history behind Lincoln's image and the long legacy of the coin. There's also a psychological element at work. Collectors love to complete sets, and for someone building a flawless Lincoln Cent collection from 1909 to the present day, finding the perfect 1996 D is an absolute must. That's why these rare high-grade coins can soar in price. Now, here's where things take a fascinating turn: minting errors. While the 1996 penny doesn't have a widely famous error like some other years, there have been occasional discoveries of off-center strikes, die cracks, and plating bubbles from this minting year. These errors make the coins instantly more valuable, because they are physical proof of a rare mistake in the otherwise highly automated and precise minting process. Imagine holding a coin that literally shouldn't exist in its current form. That's a collector's dream. The story of the Lincoln Cent itself is worth noting. Designed by Victor David Brenner in 1909 to commemorate Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday, it was the first U.S. coin to feature the portrait of a real person. The reverse design, featuring the Lincoln Memorial, was introduced in 1959, replacing the original wheat ears design. The 1996 penny belongs to this memorial reverse era, which lasted until 2008. While that design may seem common now, it is part of an important chapter in American coin history. It's also interesting to note that by the mid-1990s, the composition of the penny had already changed from mostly copper to a copper-plated zinc core. This switch, made in 1982, was due to the rising cost of copper. While earlier all-copper coins have their own value, the modern copper-plated zinc cents have proven that rarity and condition still rule over composition when it comes to market prices. Imagine this scenario. You're sorting through a jar of old coins at home, perhaps from your childhood savings or inherited from a relative. Your eyes glance over dozens of brown, worn pennies, and then one catches the light differently. You pick it up, and it looks fresh, almost like it just rolled off the minting press. You notice the 1996 D inscription, and you start to wonder, could this be one of those rare, high-grade examples collectors dream about? That's exactly how many lucky finds begin, and it's not just hobbyists who hunt for them. Professional coin dealers and auction houses keep an eye out for modern pennies in exceptional condition because they know the collector demand is strong. When such coins appear at auctions, the bidding wars can be intense, and prices can climb far beyond what most people would ever expect for something they usually ignore on the sidewalk. You might be surprised to learn that in recent years, select 1990-60 pennies in pristine condition have sold for prices that could pay for a brand new car. The excitement builds because these are not ancient relics or gold pieces. They're common coins made extraordinary by their preservation and rarity in top condition. Of course, not every 1990-60 penny will fetch a fortune. Most are worth their face value, maybe a little more if lightly circulated but still shiny. The magic lies in those that have been preserved perfectly from day one, untouched by human hands, often kept in special mint sets, and graded by professionals at the highest possible levels. So, if you're curious about whether your penny could be valuable, here's what to look for. Check for that D mint mark under the date, confirming it was minted in Denver. Examine its condition carefully. The fewer scratches and marks, the better. Look for sharp details in Lincoln's hair, the lettering, and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. If it appears flawless, consider having it professionally graded. It could be worth the investment. Think about it. Millions of people spend pennies without a second thought, yet some of these tiny coins hold the power to surprise and even change someone's financial situation. That's the beauty of coin collecting: history, art, and luck all wrapped into a piece of metal small enough to slip into your pocket. So, the next time you get change from a purchase, take a closer look at those pennies. You never know when one of them might be hiding a story, or a value, far greater than you could imagine. Because sometimes, in the world of numismatics, the smallest treasures turn out to be the most astonishing. And for the truly exceptional 1990-60 mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny in the highest known condition, collectors have been willing to pay as much as $17,378. In the world of coin collecting, where metal meets history, every small piece tells a story far larger than its size. The United States of America has produced billions of pennies over the years, each stamped with a date and a mint mark, carrying not just monetary value, but the whispers of a moment in time. Among these countless coins, some slip into history without notice, while others capture the fascination of collectors for decades. Today, we dive deep into one of these fascinating treasures, the 2001 D mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny. At first glance, it might seem like an ordinary coin. After all, billions were produced in the year 2001. You might even have one lying at the bottom of a jar in your kitchen, tossed aside and forgotten. But as every passionate numismatist knows, sometimes the most ordinary-looking coins can hide an extraordinary secret. The D mint mark, found just beneath the date, indicates that this penny was struck at the Denver Mint, one of the most productive coin-producing facilities in the United States. The Denver Mint has a long-standing reputation for precision and speed, but even in such a controlled environment, small variations, errors, and quirks can occur. And it's these quirks that often transform a single cent into a rare collector's prize. The Lincoln cent series itself carries a history unlike any other in U.S. coinage. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it marked a milestone, the first U.S. coin to feature a real person rather than a symbolic figure. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the obverse proudly displays the familiar bust of President Lincoln, while the reverse of the 2001 penny carries the Lincoln Memorial design, which had been in use since 1959. This memorial reverse, with its intricate columns and the tiny yet visible statue of Lincoln inside, represents an era of American coinage that lasted over 50 years. Now, when we talk about the 2001 D Lincoln penny, the question arises: why would anyone care about a coin minted just over 2 decades ago, especially when it's made of copper-plated zinc and worth a single cent in circulation? The answer lies in the details. In numismatics, value is often defined by 3 powerful factors: rarity, condition, and error. And for the 2001 D penny, certain examples tick more than one of these boxes. First, let's talk about condition. Coins that have been in circulation bear the marks of life: scratches, nicks, faded luster, and worn edges. But every so often, a coin manages to survive the years in pristine shape, often because it was pulled from circulation early or stored away without ever being handled. These are known as mint state coins. A 2001 Lincoln penny in MS65 or higher condition is already more appealing to collectors, because finding a coin with flawless surfaces and sharp details is no easy task. Next comes rarity, and while billions of 2001 pennies were produced, not all of them survive in high grades. Most have been spent, worn down, or damaged over the years. Uncirculated rolls still exist, but competition among collectors for the very finest examples drives prices upward. It's the classic law of supply and demand. When demand for perfect specimens outweighs the supply, values climb. Then there's the most exciting part: errors and varieties. The US Mint is known for its precision, but no mint is perfect. A slight misalignment of the die, an overpolished surface, doubling in the design, or even a wrong planchet can create coins that stand out from the rest. For the 2001 Lincoln penny, certain errors have been documented that make these coins highly sought after. Examples include die cracks, where a fissure in the minting die leaves a raised line across the coin, off-center strikes, where the design is shifted noticeably, and the ever-popular doubled die varieties, where letters or numbers appear doubled to the naked eye. Collectors live for these anomalies. They're like the fingerprints of the minting process, unique, unrepeatable, and often impossible to spot without a sharp eye. Imagine finding one of these errors in your pocket change. To the average person, it's just another penny. But to someone who knows what they're looking at, it's a piece of numismatic treasure. Beyond the technical aspects, there's something fascinating about the year 2001 itself. It was a turning point in American history, a year remembered for moments that shaped the nation in profound ways. Coins minted that year carry not just monetary significance, but a silent reminder of the times they were made in. Collectors often connect the value of a coin to the era it represents, making even a relatively modern date emotionally significant. The Denver Mint's output in 2001 was massive, but the very best of those coins, those with exceptional strikes, stunning luster, and zero imperfections, are few and far between. Professional grading services like PCGS and NGC have certified some of these top-tier examples, and the prices realized at auctions for these pieces have turned heads in the numismatic community. Let's take a moment to visualize it. You're sorting through a pile of coins, maybe from a drawer you haven't cleaned in years. You notice a shiny 2001 penny that looks different, sharper, brighter, and with details so crisp it almost looks new. Under a magnifying glass, you see flawless surfaces and deep, original luster. Your curiosity grows, so you check the coin's grade potential. And then comes the realization: you might just be holding a piece worth more than you ever imagined. This is the thrill of coin collecting. It's the combination of history, detective work, and luck that keeps collectors hooked for a lifetime. Every penny, nickel, dime, or quarter holds the possibility of being more than it seems. And in the case of the 2001 Lincoln penny, that possibility is more than just a dream. What's even more captivating is how coins like these bridge the gap between generations. A collector in their 70s might recall the transition from the wheat penny to the memorial design, while a younger collector might be fascinated by the shift from the memorial to the shield reverse in 2010. The 2001 penny sits firmly in that middle era, modern enough to be familiar, yet old enough to have earned a place in serious collections. So, the next time you come across a penny from 2001 with that tiny D under the date, don't dismiss it too quickly. Flip it over, check the details, and imagine the journey it's taken. It could have been struck in the heart of Colorado at the Denver Mint, shipped across the country, spent countless times in stores, or perhaps it has been waiting untouched for over 2 decades, quietly gaining significance. Numismatics is about more than metal. It's about the connection between the past and the present, between the everyday and the extraordinary. And while most 2001 Lincoln pennies will forever remain as simple 1-cent coins, a select few, because of their flawless preservation, rare errors, or sheer uniqueness, have entered a realm where collectors are willing to pay far beyond face value. And here's the moment you've been waiting for. Among the highest graded and most exceptional examples of the 2001 Lincoln 1-cent penny, one remarkable specimen reached an astonishing auction price of $11,378. In the world of coin collecting, there's a unique thrill that comes from discovering that an ordinary-looking coin in your pocket change might actually be worth far more than just a single cent. Every so often, a penny comes along with a history, a secret, or a minting detail that transforms it from a common piece of currency into a collector's treasure. Today, we're diving deep into the fascinating story of the 2008 no-mint Mark Lincoln 1-cent penny, a coin that might seem modern, even mundane, yet hides a value and background that can surprise even seasoned numismatists. Now, you might be thinking, 2008 wasn't all that long ago. Most of us remember what we were doing back then. The U.S. economy was in turmoil during the Great Recession, the presidential election was making headlines, and millions of Americans were struggling financially. During that same year, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of Lincoln cents to keep up with circulation needs. And among those billions, a small number have caught the attention of collectors everywhere: the 2008 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. Before we get into what makes this coin special, let's first break down what no mint mark actually means. A mint mark is a tiny letter on a coin that tells you where it was produced. For U.S. coins, you'll often see marks like D for Denver, S for San Francisco, and P for Philadelphia, though for decades, pennies struck at the Philadelphia Mint traditionally carried no mint mark at all. This is one of those small details that can trip up casual collectors but is second nature to seasoned coin enthusiasts. In 2008, most Lincoln cents without a mint mark came from the Philadelphia Mint. That means if you spot a penny from that year with no letter under the date, it's probably from Philadelphia. But here's the twist: not every Philadelphia coin is valuable. The key lies in condition, rarity of specific variations, and collector demand. The Lincoln penny design in 2008 was part of the long-running series that began in 1959, featuring the familiar profile of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. This design had been in use for nearly 50 years by that point, and collectors knew that big changes were coming. In fact, just 1 year later, in 2009, the U.S. Mint released a series of special reverse designs to celebrate the bicentennial of Lincoln's birth and the 100th anniversary of the Lincoln cent. That made the 2008 issue something of a last chapter for the Memorial reverse, adding to their historical appeal. But let's talk about why certain 2008 no-mint mark Lincoln cents are worth so much more than face value. First, there's the matter of quality. The grading system for coins, overseen by professional grading services like PCGS and NGC, uses the Sheldon scale, which ranges from 1, poor, to 70, perfect mint state. A common 2008 penny fresh from circulation might be worth, well, 1 cent. But a 2008 penny in flawless, mint state condition, with a perfect strike, clean surfaces, and rich original luster, can command serious attention at auctions. Then there are the special varieties. Coin production is a mechanical process, and occasionally, something goes a little differently than planned. Dies, the metal tools used to strike the coin's design, can develop cracks, misalignments, or even doubling. A double die error, for example, happens when the die itself has a duplicated design element, leading to visible doubling on the struck coin. These varieties can be rare and highly desirable. For 2008, there are known examples of doubled dies, particularly visible in the inscriptions like Liberty or the date itself. Collectors will pay a premium for such varieties, especially in uncirculated condition. Another factor is eye appeal. This might sound subjective, but collectors prize coins that simply look exceptional, with strong, clear details, a warm copper glow, and no unsightly spots or marks. Copper-plated zinc cents, like those made in 2008, are prone to spotting, corrosion, and discoloration over time. Finding one in pristine shape is surprisingly challenging, especially over a decade later. Now, imagine you're sorting through a jar of old change, something many of us have in the back of a drawer or sitting on a shelf. Your fingers brush across a shiny copper coin, and you notice the date, 2008. You tilt it under the light, and there's no little letter under the date. Most people would toss it right back into the jar without a second thought. but a knowledgeable collector would take a closer look. They might check for any signs of doubling, any unusual die cracks, or an unusually sharp strike. And if the coin appears untouched by circulation, well, that's when things get exciting. Some of these coins have found their way into protective holders right from the start, preserved in mint sets or rolls purchased directly from the US Mint in 2008. Those coins often fare much better in the grading process, since they've been shielded from the scratches and wear of everyday use. This is why savvy collectors often buy mint sets and proof sets each year. You never know when a common-looking coin might become a future gem. Speaking of proof coins, it's worth noting that in 2008, the San Francisco Mint produced special proof versions of the Lincoln Cent for collectors, which do carry the S Mint mark. These are struck with specially prepared dies on polished planchets, resulting in mirror-like surfaces and crisp details. But the no mint mark business strikes from Philadelphia remain the primary focus for our discussion today. They're the ones that have surprised collectors the most with their auction results. Over the years, certain high-grade examples of the 2008 no mint mark Lincoln penny have crossed the auction block for impressive sums. These aren't just random coins someone pulled from change. They're carefully preserved, expertly graded, and often have something unique about them, whether it's flawless surfaces, an unusual variety, or simply that perfect storm of condition and demand. What's fascinating is how the coin market works. Values can fluctuate based on collector interest, overall economic conditions, and even trends within the hobby. Sometimes, a surge in interest for Lincoln Cents as a series can push up prices across the board. Other times, a specific auction result can set a new benchmark for what a certain coin is worth. The 2008 no mint mark penny has benefited from both. Its status as one of the final memorial reverse years and its availability in superb condition from original mint packaging have made it a popular target for registry set collectors. Registry sets, for those unfamiliar, are competitive collections where coin enthusiasts try to assemble the highest graded complete sets of a given series. Points are awarded based on the rarity and condition of each coin, and collectors can see how their set ranks against others online. This has driven up demand for top population coins, those graded at the very top of the scale, because owning the finest example can mean the difference between a first-place set and an also-ran. All of this means that if you have a 2008 no mint mark Lincoln penny, it's worth taking the time to check its condition carefully. Look for strong luster, absence of scratches, sharp details in Lincoln's hair and the steps of the memorial, and no spots or discoloration. If it looks like it just left the mint, it might be worth submitting to a grading service. Even if it's not worth a fortune today, high-grade modern coins often see value appreciation over time as pristine examples become harder to find. And don't forget about the thrill of the hunt. Coin collecting isn't just about dollar values. It's about history, craftsmanship, and the connection to everyday life. Each penny tells a story, of the year it was made, the people who used it, and the care, or lack thereof, it received along the way. The 2008 no mint mark Lincoln penny is a reminder that even in our modern age, treasures can still be found in the most ordinary places. So next time you get change from a store, or you're rolling up pennies to take to the bank, pause for a moment. That copper-colored coin in your hand might not just be worth 1 cent. It could be a link to a moment in history, a rare variety, or a top-grade collector's prize. And for at least one remarkable example of the 2008 no mint mark Lincoln penny, it has fetched the astonishing sum of $9,556.